Hello, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to first check our previous videos, drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. Malik was the kind of boyfriend people wrote poems about and then hid them, afraid they'd make the rest of us look bad. He ironed his own shirts, remember my mother's birthday, and left voice notes that felt like warm tea. I told people we were solid. I told myself that too. But I cheated with my ex, Dante, old habits, and a terrible hour. The guilt sat in my mouth like pennies. Instead of confessing, I decided I needed balance. I convinced myself love could be leveled like a scale. I told my best friend, Kira, a secret I should have kept from everyone. Kira and I were inseparable since freshman year. Two girls with soft laughs and hard goals. She was all sunshine braids and almond polish. People trusted her on sight. When I told her I'd slip with Dante, she covered her mouth, then gripped my hand. "You need to tell Malik," she whispered. "Honesty. Consequences. A clean slate." I wanted a clean slate without the scrape. I told her I needed Malik to trip, even a little, so we could start fresh as equals. Kira's face changed. Pity first, then worry, then something I pretended not to notice. It started with a rooftop night in Midtown, city lights swaggering below us. "Come out," I told Malik, making sure Kira would happen to be there. We laughed easy, clinking glasses, watching planes tongue the horizon. Kira teased him about his playlist. Malik teased her right back, harmless. I cheered for the banter I'd set in motion, then cursed myself for how it thrilled me. When Kira slipped to the bar, Malik leaned into me, low and soft. "You up to something?" I kissed his cheek. Just celebrating. The lie was thin. He could feel me through it. Nothing happened that night, not even a trace. Malik danced with me and paid the tab like the gentleman he didn't have to be. Kira hugged him goodbye and hugged me longer. On the ride home, Malik kept glancing at me between traffic lights. "You ever feel like we're testing each other?" he asked. I laughed too loud, rolled down the window, made a joke about the humidity. He watched me, patient. I hated that word, patient, because it meant he loved me without rushing, and I was the one sprinting toward a cliff pretending it was a finish line. We threw a game night, just 4 people, charcuterie doing too much on a cheat board. Truth or Dare, grown-up edition. The card dared Malik to whisper a compliment to someone who wasn't his partner. My heart bruised itself against my ribs. He turned to Kira, smiling, and said, "Your kindness makes rooms less afraid." It should have been sweet. It was, but I felt the floor tilt. Kira blushed. I looked for cracks in her composure, wanted to name them betrayal before they even formed. Later, Malik washed dishes humming. "She's good people," he said. I nodded like agreement wasn't a weapon. I began manufacturing collisions. "Kira needs help moving a bookcase," I announced on a Saturday that should have been for us. "She mentioned you're strong." Malik laughed, flexed one anyway. They sent a selfie afterward, sweating, grinning, a bookshelf behind them shaped like a question mark. I studied his smile for shadows and found none. Dante texted me that night, a ghost trying to haunt daylight. I blocked his number with shaking hands and told myself that meant I was reformed. Then I stared at the selfie again until my eyes stung, convinced my reform required proof from someone else's mouth. Malik and Kira found small things to share. Soup kitchen schedules, an obsession with mid-century chairs, a podcast about grief that sounded like a choir. I told myself this was still part of my equation. I kept adding and adding, forgetting subtraction. The ugly truth, I loved Malik's goodness and feared it too. It made me feel like counterfeit money. If he made one mistake, even a trace, then we could be human together. That was the justification I needed every night, stretching it thin. I said I wanted balance. Really, I wanted mercy without confession. That's not balance. That's manipulation in pearls. I set the clumsiest trap. "You two should grab coffee," I said breezily. "I'll meet later." I lost my wallet. My phone died. A comedy of errors that was really one tragedy rehearsed. Malik texted through it. I didn't answer. Kira sent, "We'll wait," and a latte photo with a foam heart. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt time shove me. When I finally arrived, Malik pulled out my chair, eyes careful. You okay? I smiled, ducked. Kira asked about my week. The foam heart collapsed on itself while we talked. I stared at it like a prophecy. That night Malik found me on the couch, lights off, TV muttering to itself. Nia, he said gently, are you asking me to want someone else so you don't have to carry something? I swore I didn't know what he meant. He touched my ankle like it might break. Sometimes I feel you pushing me toward a fire and then waiting to see if I burn. He kissed my forehead, went to bed. I stayed, listening to the ice maker punctuate the quiet. A confession rose in my throat, tasted like surrender, and I swallowed it back down. I escalated. I booked a hotel room for a surprise after Kira's art show, slipped the key card into Malik's pocket with a wink. Kira overheard. The color left her face. I should go, she whispered, backing away. Malik returned the card to me like it was evidence. I'm not your experiment, he said simply. I wanted to fight, something to ignite, but he just held my gaze and let the silence do all the shouting. Kira texted later, please tell him the truth. I typed, mind your business. I didn't send it. I stared at those words too long to be proud. We didn't talk for 2 days, and in that ache, I finally saw the thing plain. I'd cheated because I was afraid of being loved well. And now I was punishing Malik for being exactly what I'd begged the universe for. I called Kira. She answered on the first ring. I'm sorry, I said, voice shredded. She breathed, then said, be sorry to him. I asked her if she wanted him. The line went quiet like a church between amens. I want you to stop hurting yourself, she said. I said I would. Then I did nothing but promise the air. Malik came home late, soft-footed, carrying lilies. He set them in water, met my eyes. Whatever it is, he said, I can carry it with you. That should have been the moment. Instead, I asked questions designed like tripwires. Do you ever think about other women? Did you like how Kira looked tonight? Would you forgive me for something serious? He answered the first 2 carefully, the third with a steady no. Forgiveness is a bridge, he said. You don't jump it without knowing where you'll land. I told him I was tired. He slept. I lay awake, counting every plank. Kira stopped coming around. She texted me less. When she did, it was weather updates and heart emojis with no words. I told myself distance meant safety, but the space became a mirror I couldn't escape. On a Sunday, I found Malik at the sink, sleeves rolled, singing a hymn his grandmother taught him. I watched him rinse plates like they were breakable stories. He looked up, smiled that patient smile. I cracked open. The confession clawed at me again. I thought of Dante, cowardice, strategy dressed as self-protection. I thought of bridges. I still swallowed the truth whole. Fate lost patience with us. Dante approached me outside the market, voice low, eyes greedy, asking to talk. Malik stepped out with a bag of lemons, saw us, and froze. The world went silent except for one soda can rolling under a car. Dante smirked, said my name like a secret. Malik's gaze moved between us. Question, answer, verdict, all in one heartbeat. You know him, he said. Not question. I nodded, too slow. Dante, foolish, added a detail he shouldn't have. Malik nodded again, once like signing a receipt. He walked home alone. I followed, sobbing apologies all over the sidewalk. He didn't pack a bag that night. He packed a boundary. I love you, he said, voice steady. I don't know what to do with this. We sat at the edge of the bed like witnesses. I tried telling him everything at once. My fear, my math, my need to feel even. He listened without interrupting, which somehow hurt worse. I never asked you to be perfect, he whispered. I asked you to be honest. He slept on the couch. I stared at our ceiling fan until dawn spun into pain. Kira texted, I'm here. I typed, I don't know who I am. The days that followed were all edges. Malik moved to a friend's for a while. My phone became a courtroom. Family texts pinged and buzzed. Gossip collected like dust bunnies. I blocked Dante again and again, grief behaving like spam. Kira showed up with soup and silence. I asked if she'd been talking to Malik. She nodded, careful. He needs someone to listen, she said. My jaw clenched around the old jealousy. Just listening, I asked. She set the soup down, met my stare. Don't turn me into your alibi, she said softly. I won't be your math. Weeks blurred into a season I couldn't name. I started therapy. I told a stranger the truth with shaking hands. She didn't flinch. She talked about shame, how it makes us accountants, every kindness owed, every wound a line item. She asked me who taught me love was a ledger. My mother's silence, my father's leaving, my own talent for scorched earth. Names fell out like coins. I texted Malik I was trying. He replied with a prayer hands emoji and a period. It said everything: hope, distance, punctuation. Kira and I sent each other songs instead of details. That helped and hurt. Months passed. Malik and I learned how to live without each other's toothbrushes. When we met to exchange a box of books, he looked slimmer but not broken. We sat on a park bench and watched kids chase a soccer ball like joy owed them lunch. I hate what you did, he said, but I don't hate you. My eyes filled. He added, I'm dating someone. The wind shifted. I braced for a stranger's name. He said, Kira. The world tilted, then steadied. I tasted pennies again. How long? I asked. Slow, he said. Careful. The two words I'd never mastered. I wanted to set the sky on fire. Instead, I went home and sat on the floor. Betrayal felt different on this side, cleaner, almost logical. Kira had stood in the blast radius with me, then stepped out covered in ash. Malik had needed someone who knew the map. It was wrong. It was right. It was both. She called me that night. I tried to stay away, she said, voice trembling. He was hurting. I was too. I let her talk. I didn't bless it. I didn't curse it. I lay on the rug and watched the ceiling like it could arbitrate. The group chats did their messy work. People called Kira a snake and Malik a hypocrite. I typed defenses, then deleted them. This was my storm, and they were two people trying not to drown. I told my therapist I wanted punishment to have a sound, something I could point at and call fair. She asked me what I wanted besides revenge. I surprised us both. Peace. She nodded like I'd finally answered a question I hadn't heard before. Outside, Atlanta thundered and moved on. Inside, I put my phone in a drawer and let the night be quiet. They moved slowly, the way people do when they know witnesses are everywhere. No soft launches, no hand-holding on the beltline, no joint selfies with coy captions. Sometimes I caught them at the soup kitchen, side by side, chopping onions like pennants. Malik always nodded hello. Kira sometimes hugged me, body tense, eyes asking permission I couldn't give. I tried dating and hated it. Men who loved my hairstyles and never asked about my interior. I learned to cook one good stew and one great boundary. I learned to stop narrating my life like a defense statement. Spring trailed its perfume into summer. One evening, as the air stacked cicadas upon cicadas, Malik texted, Coffee? I went. We sat under a fan that ticked like a slow clock. He asked about my job. I asked about his mother's gardenias. We circled the obvious until it became the only honest thing left. I'm marrying her, he said, voice low and full. My heart folded itself into a smaller heart and stayed beating. I thought of every door I'd locked from the inside and then blamed the hallway. Congratulations, I managed. The word tasted like eucalyptus, sharp, clean, necessary. Kira met me the next day in the park where we'd once traded lipstick and secrets. She didn't wear a ring yet. She wore apology. I loved you first, she said. Not like this, but big. I nodded, throat stubborn. I never meant to hurt you, she added. I believe you, I said, surprising us both. And I did this. I put you two in a room and told the universe to arrange itself. She cried, thin, embarrassed tears. I handed her a napkin from my bag, the way friends do. It felt like we were rehearsing a new language. The engagement party was layered with Annies and opinions. I wore yellow because people said it made me look like I slept. Malik's mother kissed my cheek and pressed a deviled egg into my hand like a truce. Kira introduced me as her sister friend and meant it, or tried to. I made jokes about flowers and seating charts and left my feelings in the car. When Malik thanked us all for loving them, his gaze found mine and lingered. Gratitude and grief are cousins. They nodded at each other across the room, then chose not to fight. On their wedding day, the church held its breath. Kira walked down the aisle in lace that promised nothing and everything. Malik cried, and no one teased him. Vows rose like lanterns. They talked about kindness that outlasts the shine. They talked about mercy that doesn't keep score. I stood there, witness and lesson, and felt something unclench inside me. The controversial thing was how beautiful it was, how right they looked, and how it didn't have to mean I was wrong forever. Love is a wide country. I'd built a cul-de-sac and called it the world. At the reception, I danced with Malik's uncle, a man who'd seen too much and laughed anyway. Kira spun past, glorious, her joy defiant. I caught her hand. We squeezed. Later, Malik approached, tie loosened, smile open. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for teaching me how not to love," I said, and we both winced, then laughed, then let the sentence repair itself. "Thank you," I repeated simpler. We hugged like graduates, proud, relieved, aware the ceremony was not the end. The DJ played Frankie Beverly, and everybody decided to be a family for 4 minutes. I went home to a quiet apartment that didn't echo anymore. I poured water for the lilies on my table, the same kind he'd once brought when I mistook patience for weakness. I wrote a letter I'd never mail. "Dear younger me, you do not have to collect debts to deserve tenderness. You are not an equation. Your heart is not a courtroom. When love knocks, open the door with your whole mouth telling the truth. If love leaves, let it. If love returns wearing a different face, clap anyway." Signed, the you who finally stopped counting. Romance came back sideways. A neighbor named Lila invited me to a block party potluck. Her cousin Antoine asked about my book the way men ask about cars. He listened like listening was a sport he'd trained for. We walked home under streetlights that made the night look braided. I told him 3 truths and 1 fear. He told me he burned toast, but made exquisite apologies. We didn't trade resumes. We traded stories. When he touched my elbow at the curb, I didn't flinch. I didn't calculate. I said goodnight like a door that knows it will open again. People still call what happened scandalous. They use words like betrayal and messy, and they're not wrong. But there's another story braided inside. 3 people who learn the cost of pretending fairness can be engineered with harm. Malik and Kira built something tender in the ruins. I built something honest in the mirror. That's the romance no one posts, the kind that starts with a spine. When I see them now, they are softness and laughter, grocery lists, and shared calendars. We wave and mean it. Controversy, it turns out, can be a bridge if you refuse to jump and choose to walk. Sometimes I pass their house and see Malik carrying a sleepy baby from the car while Kira unlocks the door with one hand and holds coffee with the other. The world doesn't explode when I witness it. It steadies. I go home to Antoine and Lily's in a stew that got better overnight. I tell him the truth about the woman I was and the woman I'm trying to be. He kisses my forehead and says, "Thank you for not keeping score." I light a candle not for penitence, but for peace. The flame is small. It is enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.